Hello and welcome to the Next in Line podcast, where we are helping to prepare you for whatever is next in line. As always, I am your host, Chance Pitts, and I'd like to thank you for tuning into this episode. Guys and gals, I have an awesome episode for y'all here today. I'm joined in the studio by the one and only Michael Ruiz. He was in episode 48 with us over there back in the early days when we were in the camper, and we talk a little bit about that early on in the podcast, but we dive into some cool topics, anything from triathlons, marathon training, personal development, and even our upcoming annual wrestling match that we have every single year. Yes, you heard that right. Wrestling match between me and my cousin Michael. It is the annual thing. It is the Miguel Brothers Turkey Bash. But guys, before we get into all that, I want to make sure we take care of the housekeeping. If you receive value from this episode or any other episode of the podcast, I would ask that you share the show with like-minded individuals who might be able to receive that same kind of value. That's the number one way for us to grow and to reach a larger audience and to be able to help more people. Now, along with that, guys, another way you can help us is by interacting with us on whatever platform you find yourself listening on, whether that's Apple Music, whether it's Spotify, whether it's YouTube. If you like, comment, subscribe, leave us a rating or review, whatever's possible on that platform. It's just going to help us pop up earlier in the search bar as people look for personal development type podcast. We greatly appreciate everyone who has actively done that and continued to help us grow this platform. Now, guys, you can also keep up with everything we have going on at Next in Line, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. You can shoot us a DM there if you have any questions, any comments, any concerns. We're always glad to speak with y'all there. Now, guys, without any further ado, let's dive into the conversation with Michael Ruiz. All right, guys, so we're back in here today with the one and only Michael Ruiz. Michael, welcome back into the podcast.
Hey, it's good to be back, man.
Man, it's good to have you back. Y'all might remember Michael from episode 48. We had him back on in the trailer days. We were last in the trailer before we had the house and the studio. So times have definitely changed since the last time you've been on Next in Line.
Absolutely. Come a long way. You got a nice studio now.
I appreciate it.
It's nice to be sitting in here on a nice chair.
Yeah, it's a little bit different than the couch setup with hanging a flag in the background just kind of draped.
Yeah, some technical difficulties running that last time, but
it's
From zero to hero, right?
That's right. Yeah, work in progress. Always a work in progress. But man, we got some things to talk about today. We've got probably the most important thing that we'll discuss is the upcoming Miguel Brothers Turkey Bash, which is a annual wrestling match between Michael and yours truly. Gearing up for that, so getting ready for that this year.
Second annual.
Yeah, we'll tell y'all more about that, and we'll get into the roots of that and off in the weeds of it later in the show. But I wanted to talk about something a little bit different, because while the studio's changed, while the podcast has changed over here, and we've made some progress, you've made some progress as well. You took on a triathlon not too long ago. I guess it's been a little bit, but I've been meaning to try to get you in here, and I know schedules haven't aligned, and it's been kind of hard back and forth. But, man, I wanted to talk about that triathlon, kind of your training, and just what that event meant to you.
Well, it meant a lot. It was a very powerful thing to go in there and tackle. I was very nervous. It was my first real event like that. You know, I've done hard things in the past. I've run 5Ks and I've done hard things. If a 5K is hard for you, then that is a mountain that you should definitely climb. But this is the first thing of scheduled event like that I've set up for and prepared for, and had a training plan, and not quite sure if I would get there.
I know what you mean. That's how I view most of my races, my marathons, things like that. So I know exactly what you mean whenever you put it into context like that. You spoke on training just a little bit, but what does training for a triathlon, this is me just being completely not knowledgeable on the subject. I don't know anything about the cycling, the swimming. What does that look like trying to train for 3 different events at once?
It's pretty hectic, and I didn't really follow what the professionals say to do, which is they try and have you hit every event at least twice a week, and then maybe one rest day.
Okay.
But trying to hit I have one pool available in my town, and trying to hit that, and it gets a little difficult scheduling that in, trying to make that. They have weird hours, so I would set up my swimming days, and then everything else came second to that. So any days I could get into the pool, I did, because it was the most technical event. You go in there and you can swim as hard as you want, but if you're not doing it right, you're not going anywhere.
Yeah.
So whereas running, I can go out there, and if I want to be faster, I just go harder. Whether my technique improves or not, technique can make a huge difference in running, but it is everything in swimming. And so trying to get that down, and you watch YouTube videos, you try and get prepared for it, and then you jump in the pool and you're like, how are they doing that? Yeah. They're so smooth. They're like dolphins or some kind of aquatic critter just slicing through the water, and me, I look like a cow trying to ford a river, so but you see improvements, and you get quicker. And not that I was terribly good at the swim. I think I was 112th out of 113 participants coming out of the water.
Okay.
So
it's the first race, right?
First race, but after the swimming, I would prioritize the biking, because it is the biggest, the longest event, and that's where everybody says that it makes or breaks the triathlon, because you cover the most miles on the bike. So I put running way on the back burner. If I was going to miss anything, it was going to be a run. Yep. And so then I put all of the miles I could on the bike, trying to make sure my legs were fresh for those workouts. And I did a lot of Zwift. It's a video game that you hook up to your smart trainer, and it will replicate hills and everything, but you can race other people online from your house. So you don't have to go and get together with a bunch of people to ride bikes out on the side of the road or risk cars.
But with Zwift, correct me if I'm wrong, you actually get to use the bike that you're going to be using in the race, right?
Absolutely.
It's a stand for your bike that detects your power that you're putting into it, your speed that you would be going at, and essentially it turns your true bike ride into virtual reality.
Exactly.
Okay. So
exactly.
just for anybody that doesn't know.
Yeah. So I did a lot of that to prepare my muscles and everything, but there's no replacement for getting out on the road, because fueling, you can fuel on a run. You carry it in a vest, you eat it, and maybe you need to practice that a little bit, just getting used to having stuff on your chest and eating it while you're moving. But fueling on a bike when you're not a very good biker is a whole nother thing. Trying to keep your balance and keep going with power and reach down there and grab your water bottle and everything. It's a tricky thing to kind of get together with. And I think I shot myself in the foot by practicing so much on Zwift, because on race day I had to stop several times for fuel, and I had to come to a complete stop, and because my gear just wasn't shaking out properly. Yeah. And the practice wasn't there. So the power was there. I did the best time I've ever done on that distance. So the Zwift was a great training tool, but I relied on it a little too much.
I got you. So getting out there and getting those practical miles actually in application would have been something that served you better. I mean,
absolutely.
So I see a lot of the same things in ultra running and my training schedules as well. I'll go hop on the treadmill, especially whenever I get into the deep parts of my week, and I'll put 4 miles down before I do strength training, and then go do a longer run in the evening to hit my 10-mile to 12-mile day average whenever I'm getting to that point later in cycle. And I learned very quickly that the treadmill is a very, very different place than actually being either out on the road or the trail physically running and having to. For me, it was more exertion of force and more perceived effort whenever I was out there actually hoofing it than standing on the treadmill. The treadmill is almost like cheating, if you would.
Yeah.
And it's funny you mentioned nutrition as well, because Lane Diven and I just ran that Spartan Ultra, that 29-mile race, and him being new to nutrition was one of the biggest obstacles he faced as well.
Oh, wow.
So it's hard to, for one, know how to work it in there in practice, like if you're on a bike or if you're running in the trails and whatnot and you're not used to it, but also just remembering that you have to, right?
Oh, yeah. when you're 15 minutes past your expected time to take a gel or I carry raisins. So when you're just running, taking it easy, and you're like, oh man, I'm falling behind.
And it adds up. You wouldn't think it does, but it really does.
And you can't really play catch up that well. At least I can't. My gut's not there.
That's one of the biggest rules is don't get behind, because catching up is...
can't just eat more.
No, it's a monster out there trying to do that, man. And so you spent a lot of time on the bike. You spent a lot of time running. You spent a lot of time in the pool, it sounds like. Oh, yeah. Was there any strength training mixed into this, or what kind of lifting, functional strength kind of stuff did you take on as well?
So I do some strength training, but honestly, I did not do enough of it during that time. Everybody says, don't skimp on your strength training. Don't skimp on your strength training. Get it in, get it in, get it in. And to be honest, I didn't get it in that well during that time. Like I said, just trying to run. I'd go on a bike and my legs, and I would toast my legs, and then I would go on a run and set the worst run that I've ever had for that distance. And then you think you're falling behind, but you just came off of a 30-mile bike the previous day. And so it plays with your mind. And so trying to get in my recovery and everything, I basically dropped weights completely. Sometimes if my legs were completely toast and I had a training scheduled, I would go ahead and lift weights instead, but I didn't get a proper weightlifting regimen in during that time.
Okay, that makes sense. And so how long did you have to train for this race? When did you really start picking it up? I guess your time frame or training schedule leading up to the triathlon.
I think I gave myself 4 months to train for the dang thing. About
4 months. That's pretty solid training. And so what?
It's solid training if you do it correctly.
If you adhere to the plan.
If you adhere to the plan, and that's one thing that I am doing differently now is I've got structure in my training, because going out there willy-nilly, I can tailor my training better to my schedule if I just make it completely. If it's your first race, find something with some structure and follow it.
Yes.
Because that was the mistake I made.
I completely agree. I faced some of the same battles in my first distance races, and anything of consequence I was actually doing. Man, just to kind of round that all off, so on race day, how did you end up? What was your time? And I guess what were the distances you had to go for that swim, bike, and run as well?
So the traditional Olympic distance triathlon is a 1,500-meter swim. They cut it down to 750 on the swim day due to the excessive heat. Something with the governing body, how their rules, they had to cut it down.
Okay. So close to half a mile on a swim-ish, somewhere in there.
Yeah. Yeah, just under. Because I think 800 meters is right at half a mile, something like that.
Yeah, that's what I was...
So almost half a mile on the swim.
Mm-hmm.
So part of me feels kind of gypped, but part of me is also like, oh man, at least I only had to do 750 meters. So
absolutely.
But then it's a 24-mile bike ride that I did in an hour and a half, I believe, somewhere in there. I don't remember my time on the swim, but I was second to last out of the water. I was very slow. And then it's a 10K after, so 6.2 miles.
Okay.
Right immediately after the bike. So it's swim, bike, run. The temperatures got up to, it says 102 on my thing. I think it was about 100 degrees when I was leaving, so close, but we're just peaking into the triple digits as I was finishing. So, but you start very early in the morning, and it just kept climbing. By the time I got on that run, it was hot. I was trying to find shade on the path, It was, but I got it done. And it made me hungry to try something else and do better.
That's exciting, and that's something I've always loved as well. Is even if it goes out there and it's a complete suck fest, and you're struggling the whole time, crossing the finish line, checking the box, getting it done, having that completion under your belt is something that always gets me fired up to look for what's next and go into some different things. And speaking of what's next, I think you've got something else that you've just set on the books on January 15th.
January 15th.
Do you want to talk about what that is?
Yeah. So January 15th, I'm going to be running the Houston Marathon. It's going to be my first marathon. During training, I'll probably run my first half marathon. I think the furthest I've run to date is 10 miles, and that was back during the triathlon training. It was one of my heavier run days, so I'm going to be excited to start pushing the envelope on the distance. You've been running a lot of distance.
Absolutely.
And some of the distances you run just blow my mind. So I kind of view marathon as the entry level into long distance. Like, don't get me wrong, a half marathon is a long way to run. But if you want to start breaking in, the way I view it, that's first step, right? That's okay. I can run long distance, and then I want to see where I can go from there.
Absolutely, man. I can appreciate that, especially my history and what I've done, and anyone who's listened to the podcast knows kind of how I threw myself to the wolves with my first ultra marathon. I skipped the 10K, half marathon, and marathon distances, and went straight to a 33-mile race. So I commend you for jumping off the deep end and going after a marathon. I'm excited for you. You mentioned your plan is a little bit more structured. For somebody that wants to get into this, maybe take the first steps that you took to get into a marathon like this, what does that training schedule look like? How intense is it? Is it something you're completely caught in left field with, or is there kind of a base there?
So the plan, I downloaded it off the internet. I Googled marathon training plan. I read through a couple of them. I've watched several YouTube videos from people who run different. I like the Global Triathlon Network. I think they're based in the UK. Mm-hmm. And then there's the Running Channel. They put out some goofy stuff that's fun to watch, very entertaining. But they've got some experienced runners on experienced athletes all around on those channels. But they typically recommend like a 16-week plan, I think. Not to sound cocky, but I think a lot of people run 16-week plans from almost nothing all the way up to the triathlon. So I was like, maybe, and I was cutting it short when I was looking at the training, because I want to be able to run an entire loop with your dad on his 100-miler. So
yes,
and that's a 20-mile loop. So, and I think that was 16 weeks out. So I was like, I need a shorter plan. And I found one that said, hey, if you can run a 10K continuously without stopping, it can get you ready for a marathon in 12 weeks. And so I said, perfect, let's do that. I looked at it, and I was a little nervous because it's been a while since I've run 10K, right? Maybe a couple months. Mm-hmm. And so I was like, maybe my base of fitness has eroded a little bit. Let's see. I downloaded it. I did week 1 just this past week. It's Sunday. So finished that up Friday, and it feels good. I think I'm right there where I need to be to start this plan, and I think it's gonna be tough. But I'm shooting to. I think I'm gonna get it done, and I'm gonna try and shoot for a 4-hour completion time. I think that's a little bit crazy. I think that's gonna be pushing myself really hard, but I want something hard. I get inspired. Watching your podcast and Lane Divin, his first event, Spartan Ultra, so me as kind of a complex, I was like, I'm gonna run a marathon, and then I watched the podcast with him, and I'm like, okay, I got to make it harder somehow, just because he's out there doing great stuff, and that inspires me too. So 4 hours, I think, is my goal. That's I think just over a 9-minute mile pace, and I think that's going to be really hard for me to do.
That's cooking pretty good. I think my trail marathon that I ran in Bridgeland prior to running my 100-miler, I ran, of course, trail marathon. There was some different elevation and twists, turns. It's more involved than running on the road. I think I was about 4 hours and 10 minutes, 4 hours and 15 minutes. So
Okay.
it's a pretty
Dang,
good.
that puts some stuff into perspective right
It's
there.
a pretty good pace. Now, I did have more breaks and more. It was very hot. It was a lot of factors in that kind of made it more of a complex thing. But I think it's very capable. I think it's something you can go out and do. And that I really thank you for saying that the show inspired you. Thank you for saying that Lane Diven. I'm sure he's going to love hearing that as well. Played a key role in getting you moving as well. But man, it just shows me that, like you said, 16 weeks and you could be out there completing a marathon on a full plan. You had a little bit of a base under you, so you're going to get to shorten that a little bit. But anyone who truly wants to do this, who wants to go out and try to do something hard, whether it's a half marathon or a marathon, 4 months, under 4 months is 16 weeks.
Yeah.
So just to put in perspective, if you truly apply yourself and you truly go in, I feel like you can make a difference very quickly. I feel like you can do things that you wouldn't dream you're capable of doing in years, just in a relatively short period of time.
Absolutely.
And what you're doing inspires me because it just illustrates that beautifully. It paints that picture of you can do hard things. And that's what this whole Next in Line movement and development podcast is about.
Right.
So I love seeing that. And it sounds like you've got a really good base under you. Houston in January, that'll probably be pretty decent conditions. It might be a little chilly.
Yeah, a little chilly, but
it'll be solid. Pretty flat over there for the most part too.
I think it's a pretty flat course.
So man, I'm looking forward to seeing where you go in the 9 minutes with the pace you're shooting at and everything. So that's just kind of the overview, I guess, on what you've got going on right now. But we do have something else cooking, if you will, just like that turkey is going to be on Thanksgiving.
Oh, yeah.
We last year decided to do something and make it an annual event. And if you heard us talking at the beginning of this podcast about the Miguel Brothers Turkey Bash 2, that is a wrestling match between Michael Ruiz and myself here that started last year. And man, do you remember how it started?
Oh, I remember exactly how that
I'm a
started.
little fuzzy on the memories. I remember the outcome, but
okay.
but
We're already going there.
Little fuzzy on the beginning. If you want to run us through the startup for that.
Well, we'd both started the 75 hard earlier in the year, and we were both making vast improvements on our physical fitness and our weight.
Yes,
Well,
that was a
the big
huge
one.
component.
We were a couple of big old boys.
We were.
So not I mean still a little big, but not nearly like it was. But.
No. We neither one of us are anywhere close to where we were, dude.
So we were doing a lot of working out. You had finished 75 hard. I don't remember when you ran your first ultra.
It was a few months prior.
Yeah. So you were doing some really good stuff. You were running a lot of Murphs, and we started talking crap to each other, just as we do all the time. But I think you were a little bit, wow, this guy's really gonna step up to me because, to be honest, you were in a lot better shape than me. So we started talking crap, and we're like, you know what, Thanksgiving Day, we're both going to be together. I think that was where our schedules lined up. Family Thanksgiving. And I was like, we're gonna lay the smack down, and finally settle this out.
So there you go. We decided to have a wrestling match on Thanksgiving. And to give a little bit of background context for those of y'all that didn't watch that episode 48 with Michael Ruiz, encourage you to go back and check that out, by the way. But Michael and I were born 10 days apart. I am 10 days older than Michael. We have been very close throughout our whole lives. There's probably been a little bit of competitiveness, but for the most part, we've been pretty chill with each other. And the competitiveness, I think, really kicked in, like he said, whenever we went through this transformation for each of us in this personal development, losing the weight, getting back in shape. Got the testosterone rolling a little bit.
Yeah, I think so.
Got us a little bit cocky. And, so... We did. We threw down. I think it ended up lasting 4 rounds last year.
Yeah.
At the end,
it should have ended round 1.
It should have. So those of y'all that don't know, Michael's also, you way back in the day did a lot of Taekwondo, right?
Yeah, a little bit. As a preteen, I got my black belt.
You got your black belt. So Michael actually knows what he's doing. I'm just kind of I just kind of go in there and start just trying to throw people around is my strategy. I take to the ground and try to wrestle as best I can. But Michael's got a little bit more technique to him. And in round one, we didn't know it was in rounds. We thought it was just going to be all out until one of us lost.
Yeah, we were ready to just all out brawl until somebody was left panting on the ground. And then I don't remember who it was, but somebody stepped in and said, "All right, that's 3 minutes, 4 minutes, whatever it was," and broke us up.
They did, and at the time they broke us up, Michael had me in an arm bar. He was about to beat me.
I had that thing sunk. It was pretty.
I remember the look on your face when somebody said, "Okay, break it up. We're into round one." And Michael's face was just like, "Are you serious?"
Defeated. And that's where your stamina and fitness really came in, because you recovered from that first round real quick, and I was still sucking wind.
And whenever we say that we had this wrestling match, just to set the context, in my aunt and uncle's house, Michael's parents' house in Moody, Texas, they have this big open concept living room and kitchen, dining room area, and there's huge area rug. Now picture furniture in the form of couches, chairs, all in a large oblong circle kind of oval shape in the kitchen, probably about, I don't know, probably 15 by 10 or something like that, open space in the middle with the area rug.
Yeah.
And that was a wrestling ring. You had people sitting all around us, probably 30 people circled up, watching two guys just give it hell.
We probably could have picked a better location for the pie table.
Yes.
Because that got a little dicey.
We came close to destroying some very beautiful pies.
Some tasty pies.
Multiple times during that wrestling match. But we decided that once it was all said and done, I guess we can give some context about the end of it. It went 4 rounds deep. It was very close throughout the entire thing. Michael had me at the end of round 1 in an arm bar. I got lucky, got saved by the bell. But we went at it for 4 rounds, and
Battle
finally
of attrition.
It was. And finally in the 4th round, I think I just got you edged out on the stamina, got you in a headlock, and was able to get the tap.
Yep.
So
one of the most embarrassing moments of my life.
round one, year 1, I guess, goes to yours truly over here. But we wanted to let y'all know we are gearing up, and there will be a promo coming out for it as well that we're going to shoot in the coming weeks. But there will be a round 2, the 2nd annual Miguel Brothers Turkey Bash, MBTBII is what we're calling it.
MBTBII. Michael Chance Pitts defends his championship.
That is right. We'll be squaring off on Thanksgiving this year once again, and I'm extremely excited about it.
Oh, I'm ready.
Yeah, I'm interested to see how it goes. We don't know location. We don't know time just yet, but there will be that promotional and that poster coming out. And we have collectively decided to do this until one of us dies.
Yeah, pretty much till the end of the time, because neither one of us is ever dying. So
yeah, I'm pretty sure we're just going to live forever there, buddy. So, man, that's the big part of it. We're going to keep doing this every single year. Maybe way down the line, we might, if we have some grandkids or something like that can take over the throne, we
maybe
might
pass it down to our firstborns.
Pass it down, let it become a thing, depending on how that goes. But for now, we're going to hold the crown, see how long we can take this out there. But be looking for round 2, the MBTBII coming out to you soon. But
good luck to you, sir.
You as well, my friend. Do you do anything specific training to get ready for this event? We got less than 30, or well, I guess about a month now.
Yeah, I've been practicing my insults in front of the mirror, so prepare for some spicy ones.
Spicy insults, okay. you know that 100-mile race I ran? You know the 100K, the 62-miler as well?
Yeah, I've been watching for those.
The obstacle course race I ran over there in Belton.
Nothing compared to my mirror trash talk.
I'm just saying, everybody thinks I did those things in the name of mental toughness and making myself better. They were just to prepare for this Thanksgiving whenever I kick your ass. So get ready for it, buddy.
I'll be waiting for a long time.
No, I'm super excited about it. I know the entire family is looking forward to it, and I know we're all looking forward to getting together because it's been way too long. But the real reason we do this, guys, is to celebrate the fact that you're a different person than you were 2 years ago. I'm a different person than I was. We're actually physically capable of doing some things like this. Yeah. It's all in good fun, even though at times it will seem like it's not probably coming out. Yeah. But man, I enjoy seeing you progress. I enjoy seeing you every time I get to sit down and talk with you, whether it's on the podcast or just on the phone for a little bit, or if we catch each other at one of these family gatherings. It's awesome to see the progress that you've made.
Hey, I appreciate that, man. That means a lot coming from you.
Dude, you've not just the weight loss, right? The weight loss, but the build back too, because you've done the triathlon. You're pushing for the marathon. I just see the progress, and man, love to see it. I look forward to being a part of whatever we can do together in the future as well. I'm sure we'll pick out some stuff.
We got a couple things kind of planning out. So
yeah, we've even talked about some potential hikes and runs and different things like that on a small scale. But man, I'm really looking forward to it as a whole.
Heck yeah, man.
Dude, well, anything else you want to add on here? Anything else you want to put in here? I guess, because the question I always ask is what's next in line, but I guess that marathon answered that question.
Yeah. So, marathon, and then we'll see right after that. You know, I don't want to slow down. I don't want to do another slowdown like I did after my triathlon. I don't want to take any time off. I want to keep pushing after that.
It's really good to make yourself stay in the cycle, because the minute you get off, it's that much harder to get back in. So that's a really good point. I'm glad you brought that up. But man, the only thing I would say to that is don't look too far past Thanksgiving, because I don't want to mess up your marathon schedule when I take you down. Won't be able to train, but no, man. Thanks for stopping in. Thanks for being on the podcast with me. It's always a great pleasure to have you.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me on.
Yes, sir. Take it easy. Well, there you have it, guys. That was an awesome episode with the one and only Michael Ruiz. It's so good to have him back here in the podcast studio to talk about marathon running, talk about his triathlon, the upcoming wrestling match, and just a variety of personal development topics like we always get into. Guys, if you received anything from this episode, if it made you laugh, it made you smile, if you're looking forward to that wrestling match, or if you got some personal development type content that brought you some value, make sure that you're executing on that housekeeping we have. Share the show with somebody. Make sure you're checking us out on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. And guys, always be prepared for whatever is next in line.